Electricity rules our lives, at home and at work. A reliable power supply is always dependent on transformers. At one time, transformers were filled with PCBs as cooling and insulating fluids. Only when people became aware of the toxic and environmentally harmful effects of PCBs were they banned. But numerous transformers are still filled with PCB oil. A foundry in Macedonia. Each electric furnace has its own transformer. The power consumption of a single furnace, approximately 6,500 kiloamperes per second. A dump for used transformers. Every one is filled with poisonous PCB. PCB stands for polychlorinated biphenyl, an organic compound with a high chlorine content. PCBs belong to the POPs, the group of persistent organic pollutants which, since the Stockholm Convention in 2001, have been banned. POPs are highly toxic chemicals that resist degradation for decades. Transported by air and water, they travel long distances and they accumulate in the fatty tissue of living organisms. Numerous countries have ratified the Stockholm Convention and committed themselves to meet certain obligations, to phase out PCBs by 2025 and to eradicate and destroy all PCBs by 2028 at the latest. What tools are available to achieve this aim?
If you focus on technical assistance and financial assistance, for the time being, I think it will be sufficient. So if we have a sufficient technical assistance from bilaterals, from multilaterals, from JEF or whatever institution, and to provide certain financial resources, I think we can solve the problem in Macedonia much faster than expected according to the Stockholm Convention.
Macedonia is receiving bilateral help in dealing with PCBs from a public-private partnership between the German GTZ, the NVO Recycling Company and the POPs office of the Ministry of Environment and Physical Planning. The aim of the project is to create a management system for electrical equipment containing PCB. One important step, to make an inventory of all the transformers in the country in order to check their PCB status. Sampling would involve disconnecting the transformers, checking voltage, earthing, collecting data, taking samples, screening tests and classifying the transformers. Safely disconnecting the electricity supply, in practice. First, disconnection from the network. And labeling for identification. After disconnecting the primary side, the site is secured, and the secondary side is mechanically disconnected, an additional security measure against unauthorized reconnection. At the transformer outlet, the voltage of all three phases is checked using a state-of-the-art test instrument. Finally, each individual phase is earthed. All these steps are essential during any work in transformer buildings in order to avoid fatal accidents. Apart from transformers, an important element in supplying power to the smelting furnaces are capacitors. In Macedonia, many capacitors are still filled with PCB. If they're defective and need to be replaced, the same safety precautions must be observed as for transformers. Safe earthing is vital before removing them. Capacitors are able to store an electrical charge, so they generally have a residual voltage. Direct contact can prove fatal. Caution: high voltage. Inspectors from the POP's office are drawing up an inventory of transformers and capacitors in factories. They make a note of the year of manufacture, the model, power rating, the manufacturer and serial number. In order to classify the units, the POP's office has prepared consecutively numbered labels. A photograph of each unit is also included in the inventory. What applies in industry also holds good in the public domain, a housing estate in Skopje, and the transformer that supplies electricity for the whole block. The first safety precaution before sampling, the unit is cordoned off. Access is restricted to personnel from the ESM EVN power utility. Making sure there's no voltage using the prescribed test instruments. Electromechanical disconnection of the power supply, and securing the site against unauthorized and accidental reconnection. All phases are disconnected via a mechanical switch. This is followed by the mandatory residual voltage test. And finally, the phases are earthed using the prescribed copper cable. POP's office inspectors inventorying the transformer. All the key technical data on the rating plate are listed.